We are back with another on-demand video, this time with the other half of Legalese with the Ladies, Lisa Sommer Devlin, to provide a quick download of what Lisa is seeing from the hotel side of the industry in regards to the Delta variant. So Lisa, welcome. Thank you for joining and spreading your wisdom. To kick it off, how would you say the temperature is right now amongst your hotel clients as they deal with some of the challenges they're facing with event cancellations due to the Delta variant, or conversations around event cancellations due to the Delta variant?
Shauna, I think if I could use one word, it would be frustrated. I think that hotels are getting ready for events. They've struggled so hard to get back open. You know, there are still some major hotels that have not been able to open, and they've been able to get open. They've ramped up their staffing during difficult times. They're ready to go, and then all of a sudden, out of the blue, they get a letter of cancellation for a major event that's coming up in October, November. We're even hearing about things in January and February. And I think they're frustrated because they feel that these events can go forward, can be done safely, and the customers just aren't working with them to see what they can do to make it happen. And so I think frustration is the biggest word.
And in that regard, so would you say you're mostly experiencing right now from your hotel clients cancellations just right up front without any kind of conversation to see how they can possibly make it work? Or is it the latter?
No, that's why I say it's so frustrating, because there are many events that registration has been open, the block is filling up, the hotel is expecting everything to go great, and then out of the blue, the customer says, we're canceling, we can't have this event. And I think that it really has a lot to do with confusion. And I understand that in the last year, we've all learned about a lot of things we didn't know anything about before. And one of them is about CDC advisories and CDC travel recommendations and all those kinds of things. And I think a lot of people are very confused about that. And if you'll give me a second, I'll kind of try and explain it to you.
Yeah, please.
Before COVID, the CDC website had 3 levels of travel recommendations. They were primarily focused on destinations outside the US, but sometimes could be inside, where they would say, level 1, it's fine to travel there, just be a safe person as you usually would. Level 2, something is going on there. You might have to take enhanced precautions, maybe get some, shots before you travel, something like that. And level 3 was something major is happening there. You want to avoid all unnecessary travel to that location. So that's where we started out in 2020. And for a while, the CDC was recommending against all non-essential travel in the US, and that went on for most of 2020. Now, the CDC has adopted a new staged recommendation. It's not really a recommendation, a new explanation regarding COVID. And it's a 4-level transmission rate chart. So it's not about what they're telling you to do or not do. All it does is summarize the number of new cases per day in that jurisdiction. And it's a worldwide map. And it has 4 levels instead of the previous 3. The United States is currently all in level 4. If you go to that website, you'll see a picture where the United States is a bright orangey red. That means all across the United States, the number of cases occurring per day is very, very high. But there's a separate page on the CDC about recommendations for domestic travel. And that page still says, as it has for many months, that vaccinated people are free to travel in the United States. There is no recommendation against travel. And so what I'm seeing is a lot of planners are saying, United States is at a level 4, we can't come, which is not correct. The level 4 transmission level is really about the number of people that are getting COVID. And those people are well in the 90% of people that are not vaccinated. So it's kind of coming down to a vaccinated, non-vaccinated situation. So the frustration on the hotel part is they'd like to have that conversation with their customers saying, let's talk about who your attendees are. Are they vaccinated? Are they willing to travel? What can we do to make this event work or to make people comfortable? And those situations just aren't happening. Everybody's looking at this transmission level and not understanding what it means, and seeing how many people are dying, which is tragic, but they're unvaccinated people. And so we need to talk about those things rather than just making snap decisions. And again, people need to remember, for a hotel to be operating, it has to have a certain amount of business. And if everything falls off the books, all those people that have been brought back to work from furloughs are going to be back on the street again. And that's not where we want to be.
Yeah, no, it makes complete sense. And I totally have the stance where I know that we scientifically we're not in the same spot that we were in February 2020. So there's been a lot of medical advances over the past year, vaccines being one of them, treatments being one of them. And I think there's a good portion of the industry that's learning how to work with the Delta variant or COVID-19 being present, but there's definitely still a good portion of the industry that is still trying to get their heads wrapped around it, probably has some different information coming from all sides, sparking some fear in them. And understandably so. I know we were all kind of shocked back in March of 2020, but I'm full-heartedly in the thought process that we're in a different situation now. The industry is moving forward. Hotels are equipped and know how to responsibly host these meetings with the variant being present. So I totally agree with you. I think it definitely needs to start with having that conversation between the planner and the hotel if the planner does have any concerns. And what would you say from the hotel side? How can planners be a good partner during these times? I know you mentioned like communication is key, and the frustration that occurs when a hotel could just get a letter saying they're canceling. So is the step one, the planner in the hotel having that initial conversation?
Absolutely. The first step is always that conversation. First thing to do is call the hotel and saying, what's happening in your area? Are you open? And I can tell you that as far as I'm aware, there's no place in the United States that has restrictions on meeting size at this point. So are you opening? You can ask what the staffing level is if you're concerned about that. And that's one of the ironies, is that many customers are saying you have to guarantee pre-COVID staffing levels, and yet there's not enough business in the hotel to pay for pre-COVID staffing levels. So you need to talk about that. And then you need to talk about the realities of the event. What kinds of things are going to happen at the event? Are they going to be dancing or sitting in meeting rooms? That may make a difference about how you do things. And then you need to be honest with each other about your business requirements. As an example, Barbara and I are both members of an attorney group that is scheduling a meeting in October. We're struggling with these same questions. One of the things we're talking about is, what is our break-even point as an organization? How many people do we have to have register in order that we can go forward with the event? Because if we only have a quarter of the normal registration, economically, we can't do it. And that's a conversation you should be having with your hotel partners. Look, we have to have at least X number of people, or this is going to be a no-go for us. On the flip side, you need to say to the hotel, how many people do you need to have in order to make it worth, to make it economically worth for you to go ahead? Then you need to start talking about options. If we have 50 people there, but we have another 25 or 100 or whatever it is that would appear virtually, how can the hotel help us pay that cost? Because I think everybody's kind of over the basic Zoom meeting. And so you need to have a better audio visual component for a virtual portion. That can be expensive. And so you need to talk about, can you share that cost in order for the event to go forward? Can the hotel economically agree to reduce or waive attrition or food and beverage minimums? Maybe they can, maybe they can't, but it should be an open conversation. There's money involved here. Everybody has to look at that and see what they can do to make it work or not work.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. It starts with a conversation to try and make it work, not necessarily thinking that cancellation is the only solution. And from the planner side, what we're seeing as well, and I also know from our previous conversation with Barbara, planners are definitely motivated, or a good chunk of planners are definitely motivated to try and see how they can make their live event work while still being operating in a safely and responsible way. So I know that the motivation is there, but that connection to your point of the step one of communication needs to happen. Is there anything that you would kind of recommend to planners as they're having this conversation? I know we just went over a few different examples, but when having this conversation with their hotelier of what you're seeing is working right now that's leading to maybe a hybrid solution or a solution that's just not cancellation that you're seeing kind of working successfully amongst hotels?
Sure. Again, what I'm seeing is parties talking about the numbers that they both need in
Right.
order to make the event work, and then coming up with a solution that works for both of them. I think the biggest thing I'm seeing in these cancellation letters over and over again is the group saying, we can't bring our people in, we can't be responsible for this. And I understand their concern, but if there's something we've all learned in the last 18 months or whatever it is a lot of this is about personal choice and people understanding what they are interested in doing and not interested in doing. And so if you're having an event and you decide to go forward and people decide to come, they know the risks. They have been living in this for as long as everybody else. And if they decide to come and then ultimately they get sick, the chances that an organization would be held liable for that, I think, are slim to none, because there's this concept called assumption of the risk. Everybody knows what COVID is. Everybody knows what the recommendations are. And I don't think an organization faces liability for having an in-person meeting when there's no legal restriction on it, when the facility is open and everybody can go to the same websites and make their own decisions as to whether or not to get vaccinated or whether or not they want to travel. So I'm seeing that in these cancellation letters, that organizations are afraid that they're going to be held liable. And I just don't think that that's a huge risk. I really don't.
That's actually a really good point too, because we should also mention, I know you obviously know this, Lisa, and I think a lot of planners are seeing this too from their peers. There are meetings happening this fall. Of course, some did get rescheduled or canceled, but a lot of planners that we've seen were able to still please their attendees, of whether that's incorporating a hybrid event or reducing their attendee size and working with the hotel. But there definitely are meetings happening this fall, and we want to make sure, of course, they're happening in a safe, responsible way, but being good partners to the hoteliers as well, because we know the last 18 to 24 months has been pretty brutal for us all.
I think another thing that I'm not seeing planners take advantage of is, in this internet age, it's very easy to do surveys of your prospective attendees. And as I mentioned, I've seen a number of organizations that canceled events when pickup was already very strong for the event. People really want to get back out there. And so if you're concerned about that, do a survey. Ask your potential attendees or those that have registered, why are you coming? Why are you not coming? What could we do to make you feel safe to come? There's a lot of pre-planning that the parties could work on together to boost registration while protecting people and make their events safer for everybody there. And the hotels would certainly love that rather than a cancellation. And as I always say to everybody, a hotel would rather have some event than no event. So that flexibility is still out there.
Awesome. Lisa, this was great. As always, your knowledge is super valuable. Is there anything you kind of want to just wrap up with for the last couple of minutes here to drive home? I know you brought up a lot of good points about making sure, of course, you're having that first conversation with your hotel, being a good partner, asking the right questions, making sure that you're doing this in a safe, responsible way. And there's ways to do that to be able to both please attendees and hoteliers. Did I leave anything out or miss anything?
As Barb and I always say, don't draw lines in the sand. Have communication, try to work together, rather than just saying, it's a big difference from saying we can cancel and we don't have to pay you, than to come to a hotel and say, we have concerns, how can we fix this? And I always think that that's the better way to resolve it. The law remains so uncertain on this. You don't want to get in legal battles. Try and work out something. That's my suggestion.
Great. Thank you, Lisa. And thank you to everyone who continues to support the Legalese with the Ladies, powered by HopSkip. We look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Sean. Bye-bye.
Bye.